It was a warm and sunny afternoon at Brookfield Park. Families gathered on picnic blankets. Children played joyously on the swings, and the soothing hum of distant conversations filled the air. On a secluded bench under the shade of a tall oak tree, a man named Andrew Collins sat peacefully, flipping through the pages of a well-loved paperback novel. In his mid-40s, Andrew had a calm demeanor that matched the tranquility of his surroundings. Despite his quiet presence, the bright red cap on his head, embroidered with a bold slogan, caught the attention of several parkgoers. Near the playground, Melanie Harris, a woman in her mid-30s, stood with her golden retriever, Max. Her gaze settled on Andrew, and her expression hardened. The cap, to Melanie, represented a divisive ideology she strongly opposed. She muttered under her breath, her frustration building. The park, her cherished community space, felt tainted by what she perceived as a provocative display. Determined to address the issue, Melanie strode purposefully toward Andrew. "Excuse me," Melanie began, her voice sharp and resolute. Andrew looked up, momentarily taken aback by her abrupt tone, but his calm expression returned as he responded. "Yes? You need to leave," she demanded. "That hat is offensive and makes people uncomfortable. This park is meant to be a welcoming place, and you're disrupting that." Andrew raised an eyebrow, closing his book deliberately. "I'm just here enjoying the day," he replied evenly. "I'm not bothering anyone." His composed response only seemed to irritate Melanie further. Feeling ignored and disrespected, she pulled out her phone and declared, "If you won't leave, I'll call the police." Andrew sighed, leaning back on the bench. "Do what you feel you need to do," he said quietly, his voice tinged with exhaustion rather than defiance. Around them, people began to take notice. Some whispered among themselves, while others pulled out their phones to record the unfolding confrontation. Before diving deeper into this astonishing story, let's pause to ask, have you ever been in a situation where assumptions led to misunderstandings? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more compelling stories. Melanie, undeterred by Andrew's calm demeanor, dialed 911. Her voice was firm as she reported, "Yes, I'm at Brookfield Park, and there's a man here causing discomfort to everyone. He's wearing an offensive hat and acting aggressively. Please send someone quickly." Andrew's only reaction was to glance around the park, taking in the growing crowd. His calm presence contrasted sharply with Melanie's escalating frustration. The sound of sirens broke the park's peaceful atmosphere within minutes. A police car pulled up near the entrance, and two uniformed officers stepped out, their professional demeanor immediately commanding attention. Melanie's confidence swelled as she hurried to meet them, pointing at Andrew. "That's him. He's been aggressive and trying to intimidate everyone here with that hat." The officers exchanged glances before approaching Andrew, who remained seated. "Sir," one officer began, "we've received a call about a disturbance. Can you tell us what's going on?" Andrew nodded. "I've been sitting here reading my book," he said, gesturing to the paperback in his lap. "I've made no threats or aggressive moves." The female officer glanced between Andrew and Melanie. "Have you said or done anything to provoke anyone?" she asked. Andrew shook his head. "No, ma'am. I understand the hat might upset some people, but I have no intention of causing trouble." The male officer turned to Melanie. "Ma'am, can you specify what this man has done that's threatening?" Melanie faltered. "It's not just what he's done. It's the hat. It's a symbol of hate. He's trying to provoke everyone." The officers exchanged a knowing look. "Ma'am," the female officer said patiently, "wearing a hat, even one some might find offensive, isn't a crime. Unless this gentleman has made a direct threat, there's no legal issue." Melanie's face flushed with frustration. "But it's wrong. It represents everything that divides us," she insisted, her voice rising. "We understand your concerns," the male officer replied, "but our job is to enforce the law, not opinions." The crowd murmured. Their reactions split between amusement and disapproval of Melanie's behavior. Some recorded the scene, whispering about the irony of the situation. The female officer's radio crackled, and she stepped aside to listen. When she returned, Her expression had shifted to one of recognition. She whispered something to her partner, who raised an eyebrow in surprise. They both turned to Andrew, their demeanor subtly more respectful. The male officer addressed Melanie. "Ma'am, this gentleman hasn't violated any laws. There's nothing more for us to do here." Before Melanie could respond, the female officer spoke, her voice clear. "Chief Collins, is there anything you'd like us to address?" Melanie's jaw dropped. "Chief," she stammered, staring at Andrew in disbelief. Andrew stood, dusting off his pants. "Thank you, officers," he said with a small smile. "I think everything's under control." The crowd's murmurs turned into incredulous laughter. Melanie's face paled as she realized the man she had accused was not only innocent, but also the chief of their local police department. Andrew turned to Melanie, his voice calm but firm. "Perhaps next time, you'll think twice before judging someone by appearances. We're all part of this community, and respect goes both ways." As Andrew walked away, the crowd parted, their laughter mingling with whispers about the day's unexpected turn. Melanie stood frozen, overwhelmed by embarrassment and regret. The incident became a teachable moment for the community, a reminder of the dangers of assumptions and the power of understanding. In the days that followed, Melanie couldn't shake the humiliation of that moment. Every time she thought back to the park, she felt a wave of regret wash over her. Her friends began to notice the change in her demeanor. Melanie had always been outspoken, passionate about the things she believed in, but the incident had planted a seed of doubt about how she approached situations. She decided to do something about it. Melanie enrolled in a local community workshop on cultural sensitivity and emotional intelligence. At first, she was hesitant, unsure of what to expect. The sessions, led by a diverse group of facilitators, opened her eyes to the complexities of human behavior and the importance of empathy. Through guided discussions and exercises, Melanie learned to examine her own biases and understand how they shaped her reactions to others. One evening, during a particularly impactful session, the facilitator asked the group to share a moment when they had judged someone unfairly. Melanie hesitated at first, but eventually recounted her experience at Brookfield Park. The room fell silent as she described her assumptions about Andrew and the shame she felt when she realized who he was. To her surprise, the group didn't judge her. Instead, they applauded her willingness to confront her mistakes and learn from them. One participant, a retired teacher named Linda, shared her own story of misjudgment and how it had led to a lasting friendship. "We all stumble," Linda said with a kind smile. "What matters is how we pick ourselves up and grow from it." Melanie left the workshop that evening feeling lighter, as though a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She realized that the path to redemption wasn't about erasing her mistakes, but about using them as stepping stones toward a better understanding of herself and others. Meanwhile, Andrew Collins remained an enigmatic figure in the community. Despite his high-profile role as police chief, he maintained a low-key presence. The incident at the park became a local legend, often recounted at neighborhood gatherings and even featured in a few local news stories. Andrew's calm demeanor and refusal to escalate the situation had left a lasting impression on those who witnessed it. One morning, a few weeks after the park incident, Andrew received a handwritten letter at the police station. The neat cursive handwriting and the return address indicated it was from Melanie. In the letter, she expressed her heartfelt apology and detailed the steps she was taking to better herself. She thanked Andrew for his patience and for handling the situation with grace. Andrew read the letter twice, his expression thoughtful. He appreciated her effort to reach out and the sincerity in her words. It wasn't often that people took responsibility for their actions, especially in such a public and humbling way. He decided to respond. Sitting at his desk, Andrew penned a brief but encouraging reply. He acknowledged her apology and commended her for her willingness to grow. "The true measure of a person," he wrote, "is not in never making mistakes but in learning from them and striving to do better." When Melanie received Andrew's letter, she was moved to tears. It was a reminder that forgiveness was possible and that her efforts to change were not in vain. Inspired, she doubled down on her commitment to understanding and bridging divides within her community. Over the next few months, Melanie became an active participant in local initiatives promoting dialogue and inclusion. She organized neighborhood meetups, inviting people from different backgrounds to share their stories and perspectives. Her transformation didn't go unnoticed. Neighbors who had distanced themselves after the park incident began to see her in a new light. One sunny afternoon, Melanie found herself back at Brookfield Park. This time, she wasn't alone. She had coordinated a community picnic aimed at fostering connections among residents. As she set up tables laden with food and drinks, she spotted Andrew in the distance, walking his dog. Gathering her courage, she approached him. "Chief Collins," she said, her voice steady but tinged with nervousness. Andrew turned, a warm smile spreading across his face when he saw her. "Melanie," he replied, "it's good to see you." She extended her hand, and he shook it firmly. "I wanted to thank you again for everything," she said, "and I hope you'll join us for the picnic. It's my way of giving back and trying to build the kind of community I once thought I was protecting." Andrew looked at the gathering crowd, families laughing and children playing. "I'd be honored," he said. As the afternoon unfolded, Melanie and Andrew sat together, sharing stories and laughter. The park, once the site of misunderstanding, had become a place of connection and growth. It was a testament to the power of humility, forgiveness, and the willingness to change. Before you go, reflect on this extended journey. Have you ever found yourself making assumptions that turned out to be wrong? How did you learn from it? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring tales.